But we're going to start with the main thing, the big thing that's going to kind of give me a little bit of sorrow because it's one of those situations to where I really wish celebrities, didn't speak as much. I wish it was kind of like back in the day where you didn't know too much about them and the mystique was around, because we are at a point now to where people talk too much and it shows a lot more of who you are. And we can't just ignore you and only like the art. We have to take you for who you are. And for people that are wondering who that is or what that is, it is one of the most illustrious writers, directors in cinema, Mr. Quentin Tarantino. So for people that are not aware of what's going on, Tarantino found himself in hot water recently because he was on the Bryson Ellis something podcast. I'm not sure who Brett name Easton is, but
Ellis. Bret Easton Ellis.
Thank you. It seems like he's been around for a while and he gets like big guests on there. So I'm not sure if he's just a journalist or what his connection is to Hollywood, but he gets some pretty solid guests. And in a recent episode with that, they were asking Tarantino to list his top 20 or top 25 movies of like the last decade or 20 century. I don't remember what the time frame was, but along that list, he got to a movie that he put on that list, Let There Be Blood. And in talking about Let There Be Blood, he had this to say. Let me bring this up for people.
Now, I would say, though, There Will Be Blood would stand a better chance to be in number 1 or number 2 if it didn't have a big, giant flaw in it. And the flaw is Paul Dano. Obviously, it's supposed to be a two-hander, and it's also so drastically obvious that it's not a two-hander. He is weak sauce, man. He's a weak sister. He's just such a weak, uninteresting guy.
You will be cast up.
We're going to stop that there because copyrights. But alongside of that, he had different issues with not only Paul Dano, but he also had things in choice words to say about Owen Wilson as well as Matthew Lillard. And, that led me down a rabbit hole of kind of looking at a bunch of different things that people have had issues with in regards to Tarantino over the years and the way he's acted. So I did a little digging and found some other clips that, before we get into discussing the situation in Tarantino as a whole, I wanted to kind of present these to the audience so they can see these things. First off, we're going to be starting with a lot of the issue that mostly Black people have had with Tarantino for a while and how he's gone about, using the N-word in his films. And he was asked that directly in an interview at one point, and this was a response that he gave.
You've taken the liberty of using the word nigger in a lot of pictures. I think you use it like truthfully in the script. What gave you the courage to do so? I know it's like a lot of critics are saying that it seems like courageous for you to be able to put that in there and say, as a filmmaker, I'm going to put truth to the script.
The situation with me is each situation I've ever done, it's just been to the truth of the characters. And here it's also the truth of the characters and the truth of the time period. In this case, nobody's actually suggesting that they didn't say it that much in 1858 in Mississippi.
Right.
All right. That would be ridiculous. They're not even saying this, but they're saying maybe I should have cleaned it up. Well, that's just not what I do. I don't clean it up. There's film criticism and there's social criticism. And the people who complained about my use of that are been social critics. And I have to say, there's not one iota of social criticism that has ever been leveled my way that has changed one word of any other script I've written or any scenario I've ever done. It's my job to ignore them and to not pay attention to them because I believe in what I'm doing wholeheartedly and passionately. And it's my job to just get on with it.
So we have one more clip here. And this was a clip really so looking at instance he had during the promotion of Django Unchained, where he was on BET.
I just watched a clip on the internet of Quentin Tarantino talking about Django. It's wild.
He code switches hard.
He was on BET and he code switched harder than anyone you've ever seen in your life in a bad, like he's not good at code switching.
Now, I'm not that computer savvy. So if he had sent me something that I plug into my computer, I don't know if I would have ever heard it. All right. Hey, download this. I don't know how to.
Accent,
all right. So he put it on a cassette tape. Then Jamie, my man. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Goes to the BET Awards. Rick Ross and the whole.
Just suddenly became
we all got high on the.
He's like, so damn, my man Jamie came through.
Yeah. Why?
Yeah. That pretty much says it. And the last thing I have here, and I meant to say this earlier, is a response that Matthew Lillard gave to the criticism that he had from Tarantino at a convention or something that he was speaking at.
Quentin Tarantino this week said he didn't like me as an actor. Yeah, whatever. Who gives a shit? Listen. The point is that it hurts your feelings. It fucking sucks. And he wouldn't say that to Tom Cruise. He wouldn't say that to somebody who's a top line actor in Hollywood. I'm very popular in this room. I'm not very popular in Hollywood. Two totally different microcosms, right? And so, it's humbling and it hurts. So, thank you.
So that's all I have for now. I have some thoughts, but I want to hear you guys' reaction to the whole situation before I give what I have to say.
I mean, so
go ahead.
You want to go first, or want me to go first?
That's all you.
Okay. So there's so many thoughts. I'll keep it as brief as possible so we can all kind of have a good old fashioned round robin with this. But historically, Tarantino has been the poster boy for hubris. That man's ego doesn't care about anybody. He's been notorious for being difficult to interview. He takes pride in being outspoken. You just saw him talking about generously using the N-word since back in the day in Reservoir Dogs, up to, of course, Pulp Fiction and Django and everything else. And his defense has always been the characters use this. So that's one thing. Him talking about Paul Dano and Matthew Lillard and Owen Wilson, for him to just kind of punch down, it's a punch down, because Tarantino obviously has a lot of cachet in the world of Hollywood amongst fans in general. His name is very prolific. For him to punch down out of nowhere on Paul Dano and Matthew Lillard and Owen Wilson is bizarre, and there's no reality which he would ever try to apologize for it. He almost if you actually listen to the clip, like you just played from the Bret Easton Ellis show, he does come across like a bully, basically, and which he oftentimes does in interviews. And he has the right to do as he sees fit. More power to you, but it's a bad look, man. It's a bad look. We try, all of us here. I would say all of us here, except for even maybe this is Cat. We are artists, right? And as artists, we can try to sympathize or empathize with other artists, but there are times when you have to be able to separate art from the artist. That happens too, and it's not always easy to do. It's not always easy to just simply say, "Hey, this asshole said something stupid, but I love what he made over here, so I'm gonna go ahead and just separate the two." Sometimes you have to be like, "Look, man, it's getting harder and harder to put up with your mouth, regardless of how much I may enjoy watching one of your films." So,
yeah, well, there's a lot to unpack here. Well, going back to Charlie's statement earlier about wishing when back in the days where our famous people kept their mouth shut and kept to themselves and stuff to the closet. I honestly kind of prefer them out themselves, because otherwise we end up with Kevin Spacey and Epstein Island and things like that. So if you want to tell on yourself, go ahead and do it. Two, well, and this is my feelings on it, so it doesn't reflect the entire Then and Now podcast. But personally, I've always felt Tarantino's films were really pretentious and kind of full of themselves. Like, they have good moments, are well cinematographed. They're well cinematographed, as in they look visually striking. They're filmed extremely well, but they're kind of overrated. Also absorbently long, giving us information that doesn't necessarily actually add to the premise. It's just it's just wasted conversation and added depth for no reason, in my personal opinion. I've never been the biggest fan of him, so seeing him trying to attack actors that I have been fans of, I don't take too kindly to. Matthew Lillard's been a centerpiece of the horror community, and it's kind of the nerd community since the Scream days. Owen Wilson, going back to the Shanghai Nights days to Zoolander, it's just so many different films that have been instrumental to growing the culture of the nerd community. I've always had respect for them there, so to attack them for no reason is kind of childish to me because it would be one thing if they were doing something in a negative direction towards you, said something badly towards you. This is retaliation in some way to use your station and your platform to attack, quote unquote, smaller acts in the necros of Hollywood. But I don't know. I don't really care. Like Tarantino's words have never really affected me much or shaped my life. People love Kill Bill. People love, I mean, I know you're a big fan of Django. I also think that one's kind of underrated too, especially in the pantheon of so many black-led films, showing people rebelling against everything that was going on in that time period. Even finding out through Jordan Peele's documentary is how much the West was really dominated by black people, and how the fashion and sense of Westerns really came from black people as well. I mean, I'm not lining up to see another Tarantino movie. You know what I'm saying? What he says really doesn't affect me too much in the long greater scheme of things. I just think that if anything, he might be doing this to kind of boost his own relevance because he just put out Kill Bill Volume 1 again and nobody cared about it. So
I can't say
it was
that.
called the Whole Bloody Affair.
Oh, yeah,
both parts, and some extra footage.
Yeah.
So Tarantino for me is over time made it more and more difficult for me to say I'm a fan of his works. I feel like initially my first introduction to him as a whole was it started off with Django. That was the first one that I gave a chance before I dove into Kill Bill, into Hateful Eight, things of that nature. And the more I've learned about him over time, things start to make a little sense, but at the same time, it's not an excuse for how he goes about things. Mostly I want to start with the aspect of the N-word usage and how he depicts Black people in film. Tarantino very much so seems as though he looks at Black people as just a part of an art form versus a culture as a whole. And part of what he say that is I was listening to some podcasts the other day, funny enough, a podcast that Ethan put me on to, and they were doing an episode on Django, and they were kind of talking about some of Tarantino's early life and what brought him to who he was. And growing up, Tarantino had a single mother, and his mother dated a Black man at one point. And this Black man in the past would take him to different movie theaters to watch different Blaxploitation films. So he would watch these movies centering Black people and also be in a room full of Black people and kind of seeing how they interacted, what the culture looked like, and things of that nature. So the fact that he depicts Black people relatively well in film, and when looking at something like a Django or any of the films that he's put Sam Jackson in, it goes to show how he got to that point. But in that same token, I think the nuance of what Black people are as a culture and why we would feel some type of way about that word being used over and over and over again, it kind of gets lost on him because of that. I think he solely sees it as the art form. I don't think Tarantino has many Black friends that are honestly true to him in regards to how that can be perceived. Because for you to see that criticism and see it only as a social criticism and not understand why people feel that way, it just goes to show who you are in that point. You're not an ally to Black people. We're still a form of art for you, or a form of money for you to make. We're a way for you to make money. Moving into the bullying aspect of things, to Otis's point, me being a very big horror fan, I love Matthew Lillard. From Scream to him, hell, Friday Night at Freddy's 2 just recently came out, and he was a big part of that. And from what I've heard, he's killed it. I haven't seen it yet. I'm a major fan of Owen Wilson. I think I've talked about it on this podcast a couple times, how one of the only films to ever make me cry was Marley and Me, a film that he was very prominent in. And then I grew up loving Night at the Museum, The Zoolander, seeing him in different films. A lot of my nerd films, the child, Owen Wilson was there. So loved him. Paul Dano, I'm not going to act like I'm a major fan of. I've seen him in the Batman movie as the Riddler, and I thought he did a pretty good performance there, but I'm not super familiar with all his works, or maybe I don't recognize the stuff that he's in. So me critiquing Tarantino is not in any way just me critiquing him for the sake of backing up other people that I enjoy. He is a bully, to Ethan's point, but I also feel like there is a bit of jealousy in that. And somebody brought a really good point forward that I really kind of agreed with and kind of looked at was the idea that Tarantino doesn't like Paul Dano for the factor of he is who he wants to be. In the sense of Paul Dano is, and again, y'all just take this for what it is, an unconventionally attractive man. He's not the conventionally attractive individual. And he was able to cut his own lane out in Hollywood and be a successful actor. He's not a Tom Cruise's or the Brad Pitts where they're the handsome leading guy where they're able to get those roles easily. Paul Dano has to rely on a lot of his acting and his skill set. And I think Tarantino, for whatever reason, deep down wants to be an actor. And when you look at him inserting himself in all his films in significant ways, or even in his friends' films, you see that he wants to be actor so bad. And for the most part, his acting is not in any way a highlight in any of his films. Mm-hmm. And he kind of overstays his welcome in a lot of his films. Even when you're looking at stuff like he didn't write From Dusk Till Dawn, but the fact that he was even a part of that was kind of I don't know. The scene that he wrote, he was not needed in that shit at all. Yeah. But why I say this too is a picture I found. I'm gonna show you guys real quick that perfectly encapsulates it, and it's almost on some fucking Family Guy shit here. It's a picture of looking at Tarantino just like eyeballing Paul Dano or whatever award show they're in. So you can just feel the hate emanating off this man.
Jesus
now,
Christ.
At what point this hatred occurred, I don't know. I don't know if Paul Dano just refused to be in a script or a movie that Tarantino was directing, or if he was the reason that one of his films didn't get an award that he felt he should have gotten. I don't know. Sometimes people just hate for whatever reason. You don't really need a logical reason to hate on somebody. It's just that. No, go ahead.
There is a rumor. I saw this rumor online a couple of times that supposedly, it hasn't been substantiated, but supposedly in Inglourious Bastards, the role that B.J. Novak plays, there's a rumor that originally Tarantino offered that to Paul Dano, and Paul Dano turned it down or rejected it or what have you. Again, this hasn't been officially confirmed. It's been mentioned a couple of times online. If that's the case, it would that picture you just showed clearly was from before this week, before Tarantino was on the interview in the podcast with Bret Easton Ellis. That is that look at his face. We've all that is a on the sight face I've ever seen one. He was Tarantino. That is pure malice.
That's 50 Cent level of hatred on his eyes.
Dano's enjoying his life, just doing his thing. I don't even think I'm pretty sure that premiere or wherever they were at wasn't like, to celebrate Dano and disparage Tarantino. Tarantino just took it upon himself to look over at Paul Dano and hate for haters' sake. Haters ball supreme. So that is wild, man. To back what you're saying there, Charlie, there's something else going on there. I hadn't heard the idea that maybe he was hating on him as far as, you are an artist, an actual actor that can do essentially what I can't do. You found a way to use your own charm and your own skill on a level that I don't have, and therefore I will hate you for that. Real quick, slight tangent. It's similar to Diddy. If y'all
Diddy
know
and Tupac,
Diddy,
yes. Like I was thinking that the entire time. I was like, this definitely sounds like Diddy and Tupac.
Yeah.
Shout out to Diddy.
Okay, yeah. Well, I won't say it too long, but it's kind of the same idea as far as like, yo, man, why are you spending so much effort trying to get Tupac and Biggie? Oh, because you don't have the skills yourself. Gotcha. You're hating. You're hating. I got you. And of course, hating on Diddy himself. But anyways, people that are going to hate, whether you be 50 Cent making a documentary for numerous years hating on Diddy, whether you be Diddy hating on Tupac and Biggie, whether you be Tarantino hating on Dano and Wilson and Lillard, it is Otis. You're right. It is small-minded and unnecessary. What the hell are y'all doing? Get over it. Again, these are two rich-ass white men in America. They're fine. All of them are fine. Mm-hmm. They're all fine. But it does reflect very, 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 very poorly on Tarantino to be doing this nonsense.
It's very odd because why are you jealous? You're touted as, for a lot of people, one of the best screenwriters and directors of the generation. Like a lot of people put you on that pedestal.
Academy Award winner.
Like you got Academy Awards. Like you have all the accolades possible to be a good be a good filmmaker, and then you've worked with some of the biggest names in Hollywood possible. So I'm just like, I don't understand. So part of me is like, I'm not mad at him giving a criticism, because obviously he's no different from us on this podcast. He feels a particular type of way about a particular actor and the way they act. We all have our particular actors like that. You know, Otis is Paul Rudd. I don't think matter of thinking of it. I don't think
Chris, what's the one that was in Guardians? Chris Pratt. Yeah, there's a list.
I don't think I have anybody I hate per se. I think I have roles they've been in I don't enjoy.
It's mostly the face.
So here's the
Ezra
thing.
Miller.
And I mean, take a turn. Otis has never come on here and be like attacked vehemently Christian Bale, or this kind of said all kinds of personal things. Like that was personal venom that Tarantino was spewing about.
Yeah, he did the most.
That was a lot. Like Otis said, like, I don't like Christian Bale. Fuck Christian Bale. It's been kept short and sweet. And also, he's also the thing is too though, Dev. Tarantino isn't like us. He literally, his words have a lot more pull because he's not just a celebrity. He's a celebrity in that particular sphere. If we came on here and we're bashing fellow creators of color in our sphere, that's bad. That looks really bad on us. You know, so it's a different thing.
And we don't really have the same, like to your point, we don't have the same pull or cachet that Tarantino does. It's interesting because, again, I think you're fine giving your criticism, but to your point, the calling him weak and uninteresting and a weak sister and all kinds of extra stuff, I'm like, okay, it's very apparent that there are personal feelings behind this. Because you just saying somebody's a bad actor, cool. You know, you have that thought process. You know what? Even to that point, I understand why you think that, because you've been around some of the best actors to ever do it for your films. Like you've had Sam Jackson and Leonardo DiCaprio in a film. So I understand if you're used to seeing the best of the best that are talented as like generational talent, and then you're seeing somebody who's pretty good but not as good as them, I can understand why you think that. But for you to then take that turn into bullying, I'm like, okay, what is this? Why do you feel this? Why you have this much vitriol for this individual?
Yeah, why?
It's very interesting, and people like this really annoyed me in the aspect of you literally you have it all. You're on the mountaintop. You have no reason to spit on the side of off the side of the mountain, but you're just choosing to do so because you have this inflated ego and this sense of narcissism and all these other things. But I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way when you're that successful and still a hater. If you're broke and hating, I get it. You're jealous. There's envy. I understand. But when you are literally on the mountaintop and you're perceived as a generational talent for what you do, why are you still hating?
Yeah.
Why? Yeah. I don't understand. In your same field, like you're hating in your field.
Yeah. Imagine this, because y'all both are huge basketball fans. Imagine if, like, I don't know, Kobe in his heyday or what have you was like hating on some random sixth man or seventh man on some.
We've seen it
basically losing.
That happened.
What are you doing?
It happens all the time.
That,
we've seen Shaquille O'Neal's hated on a plethora of people in today, just for the sake of getting the clip off. It happens in basketball a lot.
But it seems, I guess the thing is, you never look good doing that. The person who's hating on somebody else, all you're doing is making people more endeared to the person that's being punched down onto. So you're only hurting yourself that much more. Also, for those who don't know, Bret Easton Ellis is the person who wrote the original story for American Psycho. Okay, so Bret Easton Ellis is a person who actually does, ironically enough, does know about some psychology. He's kind of, that's his field more or less. So it's interesting that of all places for him to go, for him to kind of pop off like that, like a psycho in a sense, is on a podcast a person who actually does know about something about psychology. It's interesting too. And
part of this could just be a marketing play, because we do know Tarantino's talked about how he plans to make one more film and retire. His I think his 10th movie, and we know it's going to come out soon. And I don't think it's as a coincidence that this also happened around the time that he not only had the relaunch or the reshowing of the big combined movie of Kill Bill stuff, as well as having Fortnite did like this animation where they pretty much animated a deleted scene from the Kill Bill film, and did it in like a Fortnite fashion. So like he's been doing a lot of stuff recently. So I personally think this is part of a media push, like he's gearing up for, but I don't like when you need shock value like this to push a product going out. Like you being inherently negative for the sake of garnering attention because you need to get the eyes back on you is just, I don't know.
It sounds very Kanye.
Very much so. It's you know what? It very in the same sense of for years, Kanye did crazy. And I think funny enough, I talked about it on my channel on the stream I did, and my friend made the same comparison. Because when you look at Kanye shit previously with the George Bush stuff, at the awards saying Beyonce should have got the Grammy, whatever it may be, at the moment, everybody's like, oh, that's so cool. He's so Kanye. And then when that shit starts to look real weird and look kind of extra and not needed, it's looking very Kanye. So it's kind of the thing where like Tarantino does his wild shit before. He's still touted as the greatest. And then now he's doing it. And it just seems like you're past your prime. I ain't gonna hold you. Now,
Well,
again, I'm not speaking to his ability to write or screenwrite. I'd lie if I say I didn't like his films and the way that he goes about writing conversations and the way he directs certain things. I'm a fan of his films. There's not too many I'm not a fan of. I think the only one I haven't seen so far is the Late Night in Hollywood that I heard people say they didn't like. Funny enough,
oh,
I don't.
man, you mean, yeah,
I should
yeah.
go back to sleep.
I did you. Yeah,
yeah, I haven't seen that
yeah,
yet.
what's
So
the
did
what's the time in
Hateful Eight,
Hollywood?
so did Grindhouse.
I didn't see Grindhouse. I hadn't seen that yet.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
it's,
Reservoir
that's-
Dogs. I haven't seen Reservoir Dogs either.
Reservoir
It's-
Dogs is
yeah,
also
true.
snooze fest. Like he interjects so much unneeded exposition. Like let the audience actually like try to challenge themselves and understand your characters. You don't have to explain it to them every time.
he
That's just me.
yeah. To what you were saying though, Dev, he very much. And this both you said, like Otis said as well. As far as him being pretentious, he loves the sound of his own voice. That's why he likes to write so
Mhm.
much dialogue. And to your credit, Dev, yes, his dialogue is usually pretty engaging. It's very different, but it's excessive as hell. It's very,
Oh yeah.
very excessive. Like you don't have to. Like there's no. I've literally been in film class where they say like Tarantino. They've shown clips of like, look, Tarantino could have stopped talking right here, and he went on for 10 more minutes. Like it's like yeah. And back in the day, he did have an editor, Sally Minky. I'm saying the name, Sally Minky, who, if you noticed, his movies, his earlier films used to be about a half hour or so shorter. It's because she would cut him down, and she was able to kind of wrangle him back. She could do that. His editors now, his hubris, no, they don't. They can't stop him. So they are too long. They should have been cut down. He loves the sound of his own voice, and it does seem like it's unnecessary. Is
And
it
you
still
don't need
quality?
more
Sure, but it
N-words
is
than the
what it is.
Trinidad James song. I'm just saying.
Yeah. It's one of those things of like shooting your shot. Like, when either you're an athlete or when you're out, talking to girls, shoot a million shots, but people remember that one that went in. Because you have infamous scenes like the table scene in Django, like the Hateful Eight scene that explains, you have those groundbreaking scenes. Or I think you really love the one from not the Hateful Eight, from Inglourious Bastards with Hans
Christoph
Lander
Waltz.
in the because like he just writes good dialogue for Christoph Waltz. Christoph Waltz has great dialogue from him, but because he has those infamous moments, people tend to forget about all the extra stuff. Well, the casual audience, I think, where people are looking back in nostalgia. But to your point, when you're looking at his stuff, it can go on and on and on and on and on and on. But again, in me giving this critique, I didn't want to sit here and critique just his films, but more so to talk about the individual. But
Right. Well, one thing too,
That's
I want
a
to
thing.
highlight. You showed us a clip of Matthew Lillard, aka the original Ghostface, right?
mhm.
Spoiler alert for Scream. Matthew Lillard has been known in Hollywood as being a very sensitive, sweet guy, repeatedly. Right? There was a couple of years ago when he was left out of the Scoob movie. He was pretty open about how he was hurt about that. He wanted to be involved, but they was coming back. He really enjoys doing that character for Shaggy, and so people that know him have always said he's a really nice guy, really, really sweet, kind guy. So we saw that clip of him actually giving a speech wherever he was, and he's like, "I was hurt. It hurt. It sucks, and that hurt my feelings." That's also the consequence, or that's also part of what happens with this. It's not just us, the fans, talking about it on podcasts, on YouTube, or wherever else. These are actual people he's talking about. Paul Dano, Matthew Lillard, Owen Wilson. They're actual people. And how would you feel if someone came out and was bashing you openly, on a podcast or whatnot? And because also what he said that Paul Dano was literally the weakest actor in SAG-AFTRA, right? So all the entire Actors Guild, he said he's like pretty much the worst one there, more or less. Like that's bold words. That's pretty hurtful. It's pretty hurtful.
And it's tough with the Matthew Lillard one too, because to your point, again, I'm not gonna say I know him personally. I'm not gonna make any good, positive, or indifferent, or good, bad, or indifferent. I don't know the dude. So Hollyweird is Hollyweird. But from what I've seen, and stories I've heard from people that I've interacted with him, he will go to like the smallest of the smallest horror conventions in like Florida or whatever it may be, and speak with people and take pictures for hours on hours. Like he seems like he is someone who enjoys interacting with fans, and he's always very kind to people when they go about meeting him. So to your point, for someone that kind and that selfless in that aspect, at least, to catch that much flack, I'm like, damn. And then for you to understand, like, your words have power, especially when you're somebody that is highly touted as you are. Your words affect people. I'm not saying it's like fucking his whole life, but you saw from that clip, like he said, you know, it hurts a little bit. Somebody that good and that's worked with that many greats thinks I'm not a great actor on the same level as those other amazing people that you worked with.
I mean, also, like, this is a reflection of a lot of things, right? Because I mean, in 2005, them saying that means that those actors would probably stop seeing roles for a certain amount of time. Saying that now doesn't mean shit. Honestly, it actually probably helps them get more roles because now their name is buzzing. So now Netflix picks them up for X, Y, and Z. Now Paramount picks them up for Z, Y, and X. Now insert Apple, or A24. Like these platforms see these type of conversations, and wherever the audience is like leaning towards, that's who the studios now are going to support. So if anything, you want to just help them out. So
that's part of the reason why Matthew Lillard's in Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is that he was such an outspoken fan of the series and the franchise. And they're like, hey, you're a good actor. You've been another horror. You're a horror icon. You like our stuff? Come be in this thing.
Well, that's why, exactly. The fans were happy to see him in the first one as well. So it may be that, because I think it's on. I'm not sure when Network is on. I'm not sure if it's available on.
It's on Peacock right now, I think.
Is it on
Peacock? I know the first
one's
on Peacock. I know the first one is.
I'm not sure about the second one, but if they are smart, like you're saying, Otis and Charlie, if they are smart, they'll try to find a way to say, hey, yo, at least show a clip of Matthew Lillard in Five Nights at Freddy for some promotional stuff as they're doing for streaming or whatnot. Five Nights at Freddy 2. I mean, it might work. You never know. Why not try it at least? And I think here's the thing too, real quick. Let me say this real quick. Paul Dano was literally given was told about the role in There Will Be Blood. Like I think it was like 2 or 3 days before he went on set because somebody else fell through. He had to go on there himself and do it. And he had to play twins. He had to play dual roles, and he was going up against freaking Daniel Day-Lewis. Literally as the single best actor of our generation, of multiple generations, right? He has 4 Oscars, whatever it is. I mean, something crazy. Okay. And he's going up there and he's holding his own against Daniel Day-Lewis. To call him weak or say he's a poor actor, that's out of pocket beyond that.
A weak sister. For whatever the fuck that means. I don't.
That's inaccurate. That's inaccurate. Yeah.
Man. But yeah, Tarantino needs to shut the hell up. And at this point, I'm kind of with Otis for him. Like, if the next movie comes out, if it's like a Kill Bill sequel or whatever, if it's connected to anything I love, I'll probably go see it open tonight. But if it's something that's, a new story, I'll probably see it at some point. I'm not going to rush to the theater to see a new Tarantino project at this point. I tend to try to stand on my laurels as someone who is very ethical about stuff. And if I know art is supporting somebody that isn't the best individual or they're directly hurting people, I try not to support that as much as possible. So we'll see how it goes. But you have any other closing remarks before we move on?
Yeah, I barely go to the theater anyways these days. I'm not pulling up for Tarantino.
Fair enough. Professor E?
No, it does hurt just to see just innocent people catching, like random strays like this. Come on. You hope that Tarantino's been in the game forever. You would just hope that people that have that much pull have some sense about them. So
does he have that much pull anymore? But that's not the conversation.
Yeah, I think he does at this point. Because on a whim, you can get Sam Jackson, Leo, Brad Pitt, Christoph Waltz, insert actor here to pull up to your film at a whim at this point.
I mean, how many years ago was that? How long ago did Django come out?
That was 2013, I believe. Because I watched it, I think, 2 years after it came out for the first time.
His last film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, got Brad Pitt his first actual Oscar, and he had Leo in there too. So he's still like
he has pull.
People show up for, or people it gets attention.
Directors of his like status with like him, Nolan, Scorsese, like it don't matter how long of a break you take. If you do something, people want to be a part of it because they know it's probably going to be an Oscar winner for him more than likely.
Yeah, you're a brand. The director is a brand, like you said, like Nolan or Scorsese. That's
What's the
happen.
box office
Like-
on that movie? Actually, just out of curiosity.
For which one?
Once
Upon a Time in Hollywood? I can look that up real quick while we're sitting there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it's more or less it's a hit enough. I mean, also Tarantino's films are not big budget in that sense; they're usually obviously smaller. So it made enough of an impact to get Brad Pitt an Oscar and get a whole bunch of attention. I
It
didn't like that
grossed
movie.
$377 million worldwide on a $90 to $96 million budget.
That's not a terrible return.
Yeah, so it's
But
Yeah.
it's
fair.
not.
If you have y'all haven't seen it, I'm guessing you. I mean, I know Otis hasn't seen it. Charlie, you haven't seen it yet either, right? You said you haven't seen it.
Just want to tell me
No, I have
I've seen
not.
it.
Oh, yeah, oh, you have
I've
seen it?
heard a lot of different choice words about like the depiction of Bruce Lee and different stuff
That's-
going.
That fight
That's what
with
I'm gonna
Brad
say.
Pitt and Bruce Lee was so dumb and drawn out.
I hated that. I was like this. I was already like this. Okay, this movie's all right. And then I saw that process. I was like, pass. I am mad. Now I'm mad. Now I'm mad at this movie. Charlie, real quick spoiler alert to you. It shows Brad Pitt's character beating Bruce Lee pretty easily for the most part. I was like, you gotta be shitting me. I was, you come on now. And the thing is, it's
Well,
not like
I've heard different.
character.
I've heard different criticisms from people talking about Bruce Lee and like how most of his martial arts are performative. How Wing Chun in itself isn't an effective form of martial arts; is more so one that is really good to see on screen. Now, I'm not a martial artist. I've only heard that from different interviews I've seen of different martial artists saying it. So that doesn't surprise me. That could be a behind the scenes thing in Hollywood that he was trying to make a point of. I don't know. But it is something I have heard though about Bruce Lee in the past.
Come on,
Like
now.
he's
There's
been a
no-
competitive fighter, but as far as his movies, he's not really showcasing the most practical martial arts in his films.
But I'll just say this: Bruce Lee was obviously did several demonstrations. They actually did martial arts tournaments. He was known for being on set. He was almost too powerful. They literally had to slow the camera down to capture his kicks.
Yeah,
And
was it a Green
they had to
Hornet?
get stuntmen, like powerful stuntmen, to hold bags. So like he was breaking ribs, accidentally hitting people. So regardless of whether or not he may have lost a battle to somebody, he was known for being a legitimate threat on set. So for someone, this is what happens in the movie. Brad Pitt's character, while he's basically drunk or high or both, happens to catch his leg like Satoru Gojo, catch him and throw him across like half of like the lot into a wall effortlessly. I was like, you got to be to catch a kick from Bruce Lee like it's nothing, like it's tissue paper. What are we talking about here? That's terrible.
I don't know, man. I'm a basketball fan that doesn't believe Will Chamberlain did all the things that they say he did. But you know, that's again, I don't know. I'm not going to speak on that. I wasn't there for that.
We digress. But as a personal Bruce Lee fan,
Right.
I was like, "Fuck you!" I think I literally just took the movie off at that point. I said, and I had to go back and watch it later on. I was like, "I'm done.